Hello everyone, my name is Brian Orr and I will be your instructor for NT303 this term. Tonight I have my online office hour from 5:15 to 6:15. Generally we'll probably wrap up around 6 if we don't really have much going on, but anyway, I am available during this time for you to ask questions and that sort of thing. Obviously no one or I guess at this point it looks like no one has joined for this evening's office hour, and I did get the announcement posted a little late, but of course my office hours were posted and have been posted since you've had access to the course, so the online office hour was noted here, but I did not post an announcement about it until late this afternoon. And of course that's what we were looking at here, was this announcement. Just keep in mind that I'll have this online office hour each week. I don't usually pick a topic or anything to discuss particularly on any given week. I generally wait to see if any students show up for the online office hour, and then kind of let if they do, then I kind of let them steer the office hour in whatever direction that they want it to go. We don't necessarily have to talk about topics that are covered that week or any course related stuff. We can talk about IT in general. We can talk about IT certifications. We can talk about jobs, career paths, that sort of thing. Whatever you're interested in talking about. I don't think that I use my office hour for that sort of thing in this course because I don't think that it's really all that useful for me to talk about the assignments a whole lot or try to give you much in the way of assistance, because the assignments are as you'll see, we're going to take a look at the Unit 1 assignment here shortly. They're very straightforward. You have specific instructions which are in your textbook for each lab activity that's been assigned, and then you have for each assignment you have an example document of what your assignment submission should look like. So basically, while you have to obviously do the work and follow the steps provided in the textbook, you essentially have the answers each week, because you can take a look and see what the screenshots are that you're supposed to have and that sort of thing. And again, we'll look at that here in just a minute. But yeah, you may run into questions occasionally on maybe something's not working, or you think it's not working correctly or whatever. Keep in mind that I have completed all of the labs that are in this course, and they all do work. If there are any I guess adjustments that need to be made, I've provided you with that information in the assignment instructions, or in the attached assignment instructions for each assignment. So, and I'll show you that here shortly. So, so for this course, really, you have two sites. You have your Canvas course site, which works like you're used to for any course, and then we have NetLab, which is where you'll be doing all of your work for the course. So first off, let's take a look at the modules section for our course. You have this Read Me First section that you'll want to take a look at if you're not familiar with that already from another course. Each week you'll go into the unit introduction for that week. Obviously we're in Unit 1 here in week 1, and this kind of gives you a quick introduction to what we're doing. And I'm in the wrong course. I'm sorry about that. Let me just close that one out. Here we go. Here's the right course. Let's go to the modules and the Unit 1 introduction, and this will give you again, just a summarization of what we're doing this week. List out kind of the course learning objectives that are addressed during this week. Gives you some information about NetLab here, and essentially what this unit is about is an introduction to Active Directory. So what you'll want to do each week is start out here and just progress through the modules. You'll get some additional learning materials here, and that are in addition to your textbook. This is all good stuff. A lot of videos and things that will help you really understand better the topics that we're covering. So for Unit 1, you've got as you progress here, you see you've got a few different topics that we're focusing on. And so topic 4 is looking at group policy, just a quick introduction to that. And then once we've made it through those modules, this next page here gives you some instructions for NetLab, and this won't be in any of the future modules, so just keep note of where this is in case you have any questions you need to refer back to on this. So if we click next, here is a video that you may recall was also posted in the NT181 and the drawing a blank on the other course number. Anyway, all three of the Windows Server courses, NT201 I believe it is, all three of the Windows Server courses have this video for you, this same video, which is just kind of a quick training on PowerShell. And if you've not looked at this before, you should do so, because usually when, well, not usually, it's pretty much all the time, when students run into a problem where a PowerShell command isn't working correctly, it's because it's not been typed correctly. And so this video will kind of help you understand the syntax for PowerShell commands, and that'll kind of help you better understand what it is you're doing, and it'll make it easier for you to understand, I guess, the spacing and stuff, which can sometimes be a little difficult to see in your online textbook. And we'll take a look at the online textbook here shortly. If we click next here in Unit 1, we come to the Unit 1 discussion. And then here's your lab. So this is the Unit 1 lab assignment. I suggest that you ignore these, basically anything, well, let's see, I would say just ignore all of these instructions that you see in Canvas. And the reason I say that is because they're not complete. If you scroll down to the bottom of the assignment, you'll see two documents that are attached. Here's a lab guide with examples, and here's a lab guide. So what you'll do each week is you'll open up the lab guide. Okay, once you've got the lab guide open, you'll want to just make sure that you make note of any notes that are in red type. Notice you're given the administrator password for the lab environment, just as a reminder. Any of the activities, your instructions are going to be in black type, and anytime you see red type, it means there's some kind of exception that you need to be aware of. So, for instance, for activity 1-2, you're supposed to complete this activity in its entirety and provide the following screenshots. So the only screenshot required here is during step 19, get a screenshot of the server manager showing the computer name and domain information. Okay, so we'll take a look here in a second at what that should look like, but this note here is a note about step number 2. You want to make sure that you use Ethernet 0 in the required PowerShell command, because that is going to be the adapter that you're configuring there. If you use what is in the textbook, if you use what was in the textbook, then it's not going to work right for you, because the adapter on this server is labeled as Ethernet 0. So you want to make note of that and make sure you make that adjustment there. Now, as far as your screenshot that you're supposed to get for step number 19, the other document that you have available to you in each assignment is a lab guide with examples. Okay, and here's what this looks like. Notice that you are given an example of what your screenshot should look like. Okay, so this is what you need to get. So you need to make sure that your screenshot looks exactly like this one. So you're going to make sure that you're clicked on the local server tab over here on the left, and you're going to make sure then that all this is visible. So going back to the study guide itself, or the lab guide itself rather, here's where you'll insert your screenshot. So right after where it says during step 19, you'll just hit enter and paste in your screenshot below here, and then move on to the next assigned lab once you've completed all of this lab. So it says during step 19 you're getting your screenshot, and this is activity 1-2. So let's take a look at your textbook real quick, because this is where your learning or your lab activities are. So if we go through starting chapter 1, the role of a directory service, if we go through this chapter, what you'll want to do is you'll read, obviously, and then as you come up on a lab activity, you'll refer to your weekly assignment to see if that lab activity was assigned, and you know, most of them are, but not all of them. So you'll look to see if that lab activity was assigned, and if it was, you'll complete it and provide the required screenshots to document the completion. So I'm just clicking through here so we can get to an activity. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so here we go. Here's activity 1-1, which is always going to be one that you don't need to do, because the virtual environment in NetLab gets reset for you. So here's the first activity that we have to complete. And so you'll just start out by looking first of all at what the objective is, what's going to be required for this lab, and the requirement is server SA1, which is a server that you'll find in the NetLab environment. So first thing it tells you to do is start SA1 and sign in as administrator. Okay, so if we go over to NetLab, the first thing that you're going to need to do is, and you'll want to do this early in the week so that you make sure you reserve a time that's convenient for you. And we don't have a lot of students in the class this term, so it shouldn't be a problem getting a pod anytime you need it, but just in case, I would reserve it ahead of time. So what you'll do is you'll come in here and you won't have some of these options here, obviously, as I'm an instructor, so I have extra options, but I'm going to schedule a lab for myself. Since I did not schedule this lab in advance, I'll be starting it immediately. But so right here is our course, NT303 Infrastructure Online. So I'm going to click there. If it's not stated that you need the Hyper-V labs, then you're going to go into Windows Server 2016. And then you'll click the Windows Server 2016 labs, and you'll schedule a time for a pod. I'm going to just take this first one that's available, and 45 minutes is plenty of time. Click submit. Okay, and since my lab time has already started, it's available here, so I can click on Enter Lab. And it's going to initialize the pod here. So we'll give that just a second. So again, let's see, let's come back. It's already up. That's pretty quick. So where am I at? So going back to the textbook, we're supposed to start SA1 and sign in as an administrator. So what we want to do then is we want to look for server SA1, which is right here. And so we can come up here and click on it. Notice that it pulls up that server, and then if we need to, we can send a Control-Alt-Delete to log in once we're at that point, and there we go. And so again, if you look at the lab guide, you see that password 01 is the password. Okay, so now we're logged in. So going back to our instructions, the first step was to start the server. Well, we did that by initializing the lab environment, and then now we've signed in as administrator. So now we move on to the next step. Okay, and then you'll just keep proceeding through the lab until you complete the entire lab, making sure to get your screenshots as you go along. And again, going back to the example screenshots, you can see there's only one screenshot for activity 1-2. You need to get that at step 19. So what you'll do is just proceed through the lab and remembering that when you get to step number 19, that's where you need to get your screenshot. So when you get to step 19, before you complete it, go back and review what it's supposed to look like and what you're supposed to show. It says showing the computer name and domain information. Here's the computer name. Here's the domain information. And notice how it looks there. So when you get to that point, you can make sure that your screenshot looks like this. For at least one of your screenshots each lab, I would like for you to make sure that your reservation number is visible. So if this was, say we're getting the first screenshot now, which we've not done all the steps to be ready to do this, but let's say we have and we're ready to go. What you'll want to do is come in here and get a screenshot of this. Now I just use the Windows snipping tool a lot. It's pretty easy to work with. So what you would do is just come here and select this like that, and that way I have your reservation number and the other stuff that I'm supposed to see here. Again, I only require the reservation number on one of the screenshots, but if you want to include it on all of them, that's fine. But it has to be on one of them so that I can verify that you had your own separate lab reservation. Okay, so again, what you'll do is you'll just proceed through this. So you'll finish that first activity. Then the next one that's assigned is 1-3. You'll complete it, get the required screenshots. You'll notice that there are 3 required screenshots in activity 1-3. Then you move on to activity 1-4 and so on, just progressing through the assignment. Notice you have access to all the servers that are going to be required in any of the labs that are using not using Hyper-V, and you just click on these to get to those different servers. For this course, you won't be using anything related to the router, and if you want to come back out to the topology, you can just click that tab there, and you can view the overall topology for the lab environment. So once you've completed everything, you'll upload at the end of the week or before, you will upload your Word document with all your required screenshots. Notice here that we're told that there are a total of 20 screenshots required for this lab assignment. So in order to complete it, you want to make sure that you've got all 20, and you'll submit those. Okay, so moving on. Outside of the assignments each week, you have, of course, your weekly discussions, but you also have a knowledge check. And so make sure that you're completing that each week, because that is a portion of your grade. Notice that they're all but one's worth 20 points. So make sure you're completing those each week. Of course, all of these quizzes or knowledge checks, they're based on your assigned reading for the week. So you just want to make sure that you are completing that assigned reading. Let's see, let's go back. What do we have here? Okay, so we're going into those topics. But as far as the reading assignment, here's what you see here. So chapter 1 is what is assigned here. And if there's a second chapter assigned later in the week, you'll find that listed in another topic section, which here we are. Here's chapter 2, which is also assigned. And I believe that's it for this week. Yeah, looks like it. Yeah. So it's just those 2 chapters that are assigned, and you'll notice your assignment contains labs from each of those chapters. So there's chapter 1 stuff, and then actually chapter 2. Yeah, I was just noticing that there is a mistake in how this is set up. I'll have to reach out to curriculum management on that, but in the modules you're assigned to read chapters 1 and 2. Here's where, let's see, here's where it assigns you chapter 2, and you can obviously go ahead and read it, but just keep in mind that for your Unit 1 assignment, you're only doing labs in chapter 1, but now if you look at the Unit 2 assignment, you're going to have labs for here for chapters 2 and 3. So, and looking back at the modules, chapter 3 is the only chapter that's assigned for reading that week. So, I don't know, maybe there's an advantage to doing that, kind of getting a little ahead on the reading, but oops, hold on, I clicked on the wrong one. Module 2. Yeah, so chapter 3 is the only chapter that you are assigned to read in week 2, but you will be doing the labs from chapter 2. So just keep that in mind. I don't know if you run into that in any future weeks or what, where your reading assignment is in a different week from when you do the labs in that chapter. But looking ahead here to Unit 3, that's where you're assigned to read chapter 4, then chapter 5. Okay, and then that's it for that week. And then if we look at the assignment for that week, should be labs for both of those chapters 4 and 5, and sure enough there is. So anyway, that's basically it. One other thing I will hit on here, I did notice earlier, right off the bat, you're hit with a PowerShell command. Again, refer back to that PowerShell syntax video that I mentioned earlier if you're having trouble with this. But I can tell you, just based on what I know about syntax, here's a great example for you. Notice here the command is split across 2 different lines. Okay, so when you come here and you type in set-dns client server address, and then you've got a dash, if you don't understand PowerShell syntax and how it works, then you're going to be sitting here wondering, do I put a space there or not? And of course, if you understand PowerShell syntax, you'll know that yes, you definitely put a space there. So it would be set -DNS client server address space dash interface alias space Ethernet, and then there is a space here dash server addresses, and I think that's a typo. No, that's right. That's fine. Server addresses. It is plural. And then the loopback address, which is just pointing it back to itself, is what it's doing. So press enter. But anyway, the main point that I wanted to make here was that by looking at this, you can't really tell that there's a space in between address and dash interface alias. But if you understand how PowerShell syntax works, you know there has to be a space there. So, so if that's not obvious to you, go back and watch that PowerShell syntax video that I referred you to earlier. Okay, I think that's about it. Just a quick reminder that each week your document that you submit should have all of the screenshots that are required, and your screenshots should look like the examples that have been provided for you. So again, taking a look at this document, when I go through and I grade your assignment, I'm going to be looking and seeing, is your screenshot like the example provided? If it's a little different, not a big deal, as long as I can see what I'm supposed to see. Which, like for instance here, this one, I need to see the computer name and domain information. If there's something a little different about your screenshot, but I can still see this, that's fine. If I'm seeing an overall pattern of your screenshots not looking like the examples, then I'm going to say something to you. But they should look almost identical. So just, take advantage of this document here and make sure that your screenshots look like the ones that are provided. A lot of times students make mistakes, like here for instance. Maybe they are clicked on the test domain local and not clicked on domain controller, so I can't actually see the domain controller. Well, in that instance, you may have a screenshot of the Active Directory users and computers, but if you're not clicked on the right area where I can see what I need to see to verify that you completed it part of the lab successfully, then I can't give you credit for it. So just make sure that your screenshots look like the examples that have been provided for you. Other than that, again, I think that's about it. Just keep in mind, each week I do have an online office hour at the same time, starting right around 5:15. If you join, I'm just going to kind of let students guide how that hour goes. If there's nobody here, then I'll just pick something related to a topic we're covering that week and talk about it and post a recording on it. So anyway, if you run into any questions, chances are they are answered. Probably the majority of your questions are answered in the welcome video. Let's see. Yeah, that's probably the main one. But if you run across something that you've not found an answer to, and with respect to the course and what you need to do, just let me know. Just shoot me a question via course message or email, and I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to wrap up the recording. You guys have a good week.